What's up and welcome to the video. I'm Dr. Daniel Ricciardi. If you're watching this, I am now 36 years old from the time this video was released. Just turned 36 2 days ago, June 22nd. I wanted to make this video to share my story with you. I haven't really talked too much about my personal life besides my history with SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So I want to have some fun, share some stories with you that kind of highlight some good points in my life, but also a lot of negative, bad, or even embarrassing moments. So hopefully you'll enjoy this and get to know me a little bit better. I was thinking about how to do this. I kind of split my life up, I guess, into 3 different chapters. So chapter 1, starting June 22nd, 1988 through 2014. This is when I lived in Buffalo and Western New York. Then from 2014 to 2021, when I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then finally from 2021 to present day in Austin, Texas. All right, so I grew up in the town of Orchard Park, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo, New York. It's the same town the Buffalo Bills football stadium's in. When I was a kid, I was pretty good in school. I was a really good kid, to be honest. Didn't really get into any trouble. Loved sports. Sports was the main focus of my life, and it was not close. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a professional baseball player. Turned out that did not happen. I was not very good. The first really tough moment in my life, which isn't really that big of a deal, but I think when I was in 7th grade, so 12 or 13, whatever age that is, I got cut from the school baseball team and I was devastated. Looking back, it was probably a reasonable decision by the coach, but I was absolutely devastated, cried a lot the whole rest of the day. And then it was actually embarrassing going to school because everyone that I was friends with that was on the team was asking like what happened, and didn't feel very good. Later in high school, when I was looking at colleges and trying to pick a major to go to school, fortunately my dad was really helpful with this. I have both my parents and 2 brothers, by the way, but my dad was really helpful with this because obviously I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player because you have to be good to do that. I was not. We were talking one day and he worked in the pharmaceutical industry for his whole career, and he said, "What about pharmacy?" And I didn't really know anything what that was involving, but I was pretty good at math and science, and he was explaining to me pharmacy is a really good career right now. There's a lot of job opportunities. They're in huge demand. And at the time, this is back in 2005 when I was looking at careers, there was a deal where you could go to Alaska and work in a pharmacy there, like a retail pharmacy, for 3 years, and they would pay you $1 million. I never ended up going to Alaska, but they were also offering all these signing bonuses for pharmacists, even if you stayed locally. So I thought to myself, well, it's science related. I think it could be cool. And it sounds like there's job openings after I leave school. So why not try it? I did 2 years of undergrad at University of Buffalo, and I did all the pre-pharmacy related classes. It was a ton of work, spent a lot of time studying, but it was also really fun. And the friends that I met in my first 2 years of college are still some of my closest that I have today. I mentioned I didn't do anything wrong and I was a really good kid in high school. College wasn't exactly the same way, I would say. 3 to 4 days of the week, pretty much every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and maybe even another day of the week was dedicated to drinking. I went out a lot. I drank a lot. From my personal college experience, it was a lot of drinking and chasing girls, which unfortunately I was not good at either of them. But the new friends that I'd made my first couple of years of college, this is what they all wanted to do, and I liked hanging out with them, so that's what I did as well. My second year of college, due to doing stuff like this, I ended up having to do a ton of community service hours on campus. Specifically for about 2 months, almost every day, I would have to go to the library from 8 p.m. to midnight. I would stand with a reflective vest on and stand in the doorway of the exit of the library, and I would have to ask every single person if they wanted a safety walk to either their car, their dorm, or wherever they were going, no matter how far it was. I had to ask every single person. So it didn't matter if it was boy, girl, football player that doesn't need my help for protection whatsoever. But fortunately, after a couple months of doing this requirement, thankfully it was over with. I got accepted to pharmacy school at St. John Fisher College and went there the next year to start my 4 years of my pharmacy doctorate program. I'll be honest, doing pharmacy school, this was really difficult for me. There were certain times where I was performing pretty badly in specific classes and oftentimes questioned whether I was actually smart enough to actually proceed and finish the program and ever become a pharmacist. A couple times I had to basically completely shut down everything else going on in my life and just focus on studying. But fortunately, I eventually got through it and graduated. Graduating from pharmacy school was one of the best feelings because this was 6 years of college, and then before that, all this work in high school to try to get into a good college and have an opportunity to do this. So it just felt like all these years of work and I finally graduated and have a job working at a major retail pharmacy. I was also pumped because I had essentially $0 and now I could actually be working and making a good salary. My first year or so working for this major retail pharmacy was awesome. I would basically drive to a pharmacy, work the day, and then leave, and I wouldn't have to think about work any other time. It was pretty cool. If every year was like this year, I probably would still be working there today because I enjoyed it and it was not stressful. After a couple years of doing this in Buffalo, New York, I was looking for just some sort of new experience. The thought of renewing my lease where I was or doing the same things, I just felt like a little bit stagnant and needed some new experience. I had a couple friends that had moved to Minneapolis or were from there, and they all had amazing things to say about it. And I'd visited a couple times and visited in the summer, and we just did a ton of fun stuff. And that was kind of the deciding factor that I'm going to try something new. I'm going to at least move out of state and just see what life's like, because I didn't go out of state to college, never really experienced living somewhere else besides Buffalo and Rochester, which are both in Western New York. I really had no idea what to expect, but packed up the car and made the 16-hour drive from Buffalo, New York, Minneapolis, Minnesota, with my car full of most of my stuff, and then my brother sitting there next to me, who was nice enough to make the trip with me. Leaving Buffalo was pretty emotional because that was the first time I've ever been outside of an hour drive from where the rest of my family lived. And my mindset at the time was I'll try it for a year or two, but I really didn't know like what would happen or if I would end up being back in Buffalo at any point. When I got to Minneapolis, it was really easy to kind of settle in. I already knew a couple people and they introduced me to a ton of other people. So I had this group of friends that was really fun. And the first couple years in Minneapolis were just an amazing experience. Before I moved to Minneapolis, I told my boss in Buffalo I'm transferring and moving to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and requested a job transfer, which they obliged to. But working at this pharmacy in Minneapolis, I eventually got super burnt out. This was probably around 2016. If you're a pharmacist and you've been in the game for a while, you know the industry has changed a lot in the last 10 or 15 years. Work got to become extremely stressful. If you go into a pharmacy right now, maybe they enjoy working there, but for me, I became pretty unhappy with work. Granted, keeping everything in perspective, I had a job that paid well, so I really have no reason to complain, but I also had this expectation about how my whole life would be, and this job component, what I was doing, just didn't fit into that. So I felt like I really didn't have much direction because the company I was working for, I actually did not want to get promoted because the job you get promoted to seemed way worse. It was during this 2-year period where I was applying to a lot of other positions, specifically at pharmaceutical companies. As I mentioned before, my dad used to work for them, so he had some contacts and people that I could speak with and maybe have a foot in the door. Unfortunately, after 2 years of doing this, I hadn't got anywhere though, which was somewhat disappointing. I always had this vision of my work life as being able to travel to different cities and then pull up my laptop or work from a coffee shop and say that I was working, or go to different meetings and just do all these other interesting things instead of just working in the pharmacy. Eventually in 2018, I got a different job, which was great for me because I was super burnt out of the pharmacy and hating being in there. Basically, at the insurance company, I'm the guy where if you go to the pharmacy and they tell you your insurance is not covered and it needs a special prior authorization, I'm the person sitting at the desk that is reviewing your health information to see if you qualify for the medication. And fortunately for you, I was really bad at my job, so I approved way more things than I was technically supposed to. Great for you, not really great for the company. They weren't super thrilled that I was doing this, and eventually I got a bunch of notices at work that my performance was not up to expectations. And I knew at that point that I needed to find a different job again because I was going to be let go. I still had connections at the pharmacy that I used to work at, and I really did not want to go back there, but I also needed a paycheck and some money coming in. So this was literally my only option. It was very, very tough swallowing my pride, I would say, and having to go back to working the same job that I had previously at even lower pay. And my first shift back working in the pharmacy, that was an emotional day just because I just felt like I failed again. It's kind of like baseball all over again when I got cut from the team. This was the first thing that I had ever failed at in my professional life in terms of something related to a job I was at. So that was really tough to take as well. So even though I was back at this pharmacy, I just kind of promised myself, I was like, I need a new plan. I need to figure out something different. This was in 2019, but I really had no clue what to do. It was August 2019. It was a Sunday morning. I was having a coffee at a coffee shop like I typically would with one of my good friends, Corey Hibben. Shout out Corey, Health Hustle podcast. But we would just talk about work, life, and everything in between, usually chat for like 2 hours on a Sunday. And he just said to me one day, why don't you look into doing functional medicine? You like all that stuff. And I was like, I have no clue what this is, but I've always loved fitness, eating healthy, just having a healthy lifestyle. So I started reading stuff online, and I started reading stuff like person cured their diabetes with diet alone, thinking to myself, interesting. Or this person cured this chronic illness by doing this. And none of it had to do with taking prescription medications. So I kind of had a light bulb click in my head, like maybe there's more to being healthy than just taking your medications on time, breakfast, lunch, dinner, like you're told to, because this was the entire training that I'd had previously. So this led me in 2019 to start taking classes in functional medicine from School of Applied Functional Medicine and just get a really solid foundation of what this is all about. This entire time though, since about 2011, I had, I wouldn't say terrible digestive issues, but I always felt bloated, was really gassy all the time, and even had some brain fog. And while it didn't prevent me from traveling, working, it was still like a major annoyance, and I didn't like how I looked. I've shown this photo a few times. I'll put it up on the screen. This is me getting ready for my friend's wedding. And although you may look at this photo and you may say, I look good, you may say, I don't look good, you may think it looks like a normal person. For me, due to the lifestyle and how serious I took how my body looked, this was kind of an embarrassing photo. Even a couple of my friends commented on it when they saw it show up online. They're like, geez, Dan, like you gotta do something about that. Our friend dynamic, if you understand it, like pretty harsh on ourselves and kind of make fun of each other a lot. But if you get made fun of something and you believe that it's true, it hurts a lot more. So I'm not mad that it happened, but just explaining it for you. So finally, February 11th, 2020, this is right before COVID started. I finally had a consultation with somebody that does this functional medicine stuff that I've been learning about and wanted to ask about my digestive symptoms. So from there, I discovered that I had this intestine infection called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. What the hell is this? I worked in the pharmacy for 10 years, never even heard of this, don't know what it is. I'm a medical professional. Why do I not know what this is? So the more I researched and read about it, the more I realized what I needed to do and eventually treated myself and eliminated my SIBO symptoms. I no longer had gas, bloating, or the brain fog that I was stuck with. And this all happened within a matter of months. COVID was obviously terrible, but for me, these 3 months were magnificent because the issue that I'd been having for almost a decade, I no longer had. My body looked better. I felt better. I had more confidence. I would have been way happier dating more. Unfortunately, it was COVID and nobody was allowed to go outside or do any of that. So I guess I'll brag a little bit right now. Like during COVID, there's a lot of people that literally did nothing or just drank alcohol and didn't do anything to work on themselves. I fanatically learned about functional medicine and SIBO in 2020 and all the years after that, especially the first year though, during COVID. There's all this extra time sitting by myself in my apartment in Minneapolis, can't interact with anybody. So I was like, I'm gonna learn everything I possibly can about this condition, about functional medicine, and maybe one day I'll actually help other people with this. Because if I'm a pharmacist working there for 10 years, healthcare professional, and I don't even know what this condition is, there's gotta be a lot of other people also dealing with this that could potentially benefit from the knowledge that I'm about to gain. So I went about learning this information pretty psychotically in 2020. And then in February 2021, I thought to myself, I'm ready to help some other people with this. So I officially launched my business, Dr. Daniel Ricciardi, February 2021. On to chapter 3, Austin, Texas. So in September 2021, I officially resigned my job from the major retail pharmacy. And then in November 2021, I ended up driving south with my buddy, the same one that I spoke with in the coffee shop. We had both quit our jobs right around the same time. And we said to each other, let's at least try another city. Let's see how Austin is. If all goes bad, at least we spent the winter somewhere warm and got to try a new experience. So we're coming up on 3 years later now, and I now officially live in Austin, Texas, living here permanently and love being here. I've been coaching clients since 2021. Initially, it was just all sorts of gut health issues. I'd work with clients one-on-one. Now I've kind of focused to what I'm doing now, which is my online program called SIBO Shortcut. It's a low price monthly membership, and you get 2 things in it. Number 1, all the information and knowledge and protocols that I've developed over years of working with clients with SIBO. It's all contained in one place for you to immediately access. And then 2 is ongoing support in a private Facebook group where I host live Q&As and answer questions on the wall. If you're an entrepreneur, you know that this lifestyle is not easy and it takes a lot of work. It's definitely more hours of work than I used to work previously when I worked in the pharmacy. So the entrepreneur life has definitely been an interesting one, but continue to do it. And overall, I've really enjoyed it. That's it for this video, my story. Looking back, I probably wouldn't change anything. There was definitely some tough times in there. Granted, tough is all relative. I believe problems and issues if we perceive them to be that way. So definitely had some tough moments, but that also led me to what I'm doing now. And if things happen differently, I probably wouldn't be doing or where I'm at today. So with that said, very grateful for my first 36 years and grateful to have good health, family, and friends. That's it for today. I appreciate you listening to my story. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a little bit of a better idea just who I am and what I'm all about. If you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments. I'd love to connect and answer them. Thank you, and see you in the next video.